Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all having a great day. Welcome to part one of a two-part build of the Honda Pioneer. As you can see, the Pioneer's out. I'm getting ready to pull it in. I am going to get a before and after measurement at the front and the rear of the Pioneer. We're going to label it with some masking tape. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to start opening up all of these boxes because they're going on the build. I got the tires right here. I actually have 4 new rims in there. I haven't decided if I'm going to use them or not. I've got some of the tools laid out here, and I have cleared a path to the toolbox, and we'll be in and out of this quite a bit. So let's go ahead, let's get through these boxes, let's get started. I'm going to fast forward through a lot of this because no one really cares about jacking up the Pioneer, taking the tires off. Well, that's all unboxed. That's 15 minutes of work and trying to be organized. So let me show you what we got here. So I have my front, my rear brackets. I'm gonna actually do the rear first. They give you all the studs you need, whether it's for a Polaris, a Can-Am Honda, Kawasaki, whatever it is. So I have my portal hubs here. These are the cast aluminum. They are the cheaper version of the two, but they are also the same warranty. Same internal, same seal, same everything. They're just cast. You know what? They look pretty nice. They're fairly stout. I'm assuming this is the front hardware, the rear hardware with the F and the R. I don't know what this is. This is new. This is called Portal Blood. So the Portal Blood is instead of gear oil. They say it lasts 4 times longer than the typical auto parts stuff. I don't know if that's true or not. But you know what? It's the same price if you buy a case of 6. I will end up changing this every 600 miles for my style of riding. Obviously, the first ride, the guy told me to change it within 50 to 100 miles. But then change it to the 600 miles. It's great because it's on the maintenance meter. Coming down here, if you look, this is for your tie rods. There is an R there and an L there, right and left. And they even put just a tiny dab of grease in there. You got some shims in here. These are for your brake calipers. There's a part number. I don't know if you can see on there. One thing I did notice on these ones is they are different. There's an L and there's an R. You have your extended, upgraded stainless steel brake lines, which I like. And then your instructions. Obviously, I saw this in the previous video, and this is my tie rods. So all of this will be going on the Pioneer. So we'll go ahead, I'm gonna get the Pioneer pulled in, I'm gonna get the rear jacked up, I'm gonna start disassembling it, and then we'll work through this together. All right, so I've gone ahead, I've gotten everything prepped and ready for the install. As you can see, I have taken the wheel and tire off, I have disconnected the shock, and I have taken the brake caliper off. Now I will have to flip the rear brake calipers because they want the bleeder screw up. So I went ahead and I got all the studs pressed in. I didn't use the brass punch like they said. I didn't have it pressed. I used some washers and some old lug nuts. And let me tell you what, the washers took a pounding. They were not that big. So there is a difference between the front and the rear rotors. And if you come over here, it says the front rotor U, part U, is thinner than the rear rotor A. And they're talking about that spacer right there. So when you look in here, there's the thick spacer, and then you come over, there is the thinner spacer. And there's not that much difference between them. So another difference on these is when you get your portals here, they come packs of 2. One right side, one left side. And the way the instructions show it is the flat should be on the back and this should be headed forward. So this is the driver's side, and I flip this around, this will be the passenger side, and you have 2 sets. So getting started here, it's not a difficult process. I think the hardest part of this whole deal is the brakes and setting them up. and I'll show you what I mean when we get there. And how do I know this already? Well, so I don't look like a complete idiot, I went ahead and I've already installed this side. So it's not on the ground, so it's still up in the air, but as you can see, it's not sticking out too far. I forgot to get the width measurements, but I did get the ground measurements all the way around. So for those of you wondering why'd you start with the rear instead of doing the front? Well, I figured it'd be easier because I don't have to deal with doing an alignment when I put the upgraded tie rods in. And the other reason is, well, I'm only gonna do half today, and I don't want the Pioneer to look like one of those squatted trucks. That looks weird. So, starting off, you got your knuckle here, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna take these and you just push them in. And then you have the top and the bottom. So you're just gonna take these caps and we're gonna push them in to start off. Done. Then you got a sleeve that's gonna go in. Nice and easy. Now mine, for some reason, are sticking a little bit, so I'm just gonna tap them in. Another thing I wanted to show you real quick while we're here is these are for your brake calipers. If you look, there's a notch in this one. I don't know if the camera's showing it. See how much thicker this is. This is the rear. It only fits the rear caliper. This fits the front. So now, coming down here, let me show you where we're at. I have already taken the shock off I showed you before, and I have taken the brake off, and there's the caliper right there with your banjo nut. I've loosened everything. So when you go ahead and do this, if you're gonna keep your stock axles, not a big deal. Remember, I'm changing the rear axles. You're gonna reuse this hardware here and on the bottom. And then this is just gonna slide in, and I'll do that here in a second. One thing to know on the rear axles, unlike the front axles, is they're different part numbers because they're different lengths. The passenger side axle, I believe, is the shorter of the two axles. The driver's side axle is longer. I think it's like 3/4 of an inch or an inch. I mean, it's a pretty big deal. So if you pull it out, you'll know. What that means though is if you ever break an axle on the trail, you've got to carry one front as a spare because they're interchangeable, and two rears because they're not interchangeable if you decide to carry extra parts. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this done, and we'll start right back up. Take this off. Very simple. Gonna remove this castle nut. Pull this off. Remove this hardware. Now I do have a jack underneath here supporting it. What I was saying earlier, with the jack all the way down like this, it does bind. There we go there. Tap that out. Okay. And this will just slide off. Now, to remove your rear axle, go ahead, lift up the A-arm, and just give it a tug, and that's it. Now the only thing left to do is to reassemble. So with the axle, all you gotta do is you line the splines up, and you push it in. Just make sure it's all the way seated back there. Then I went ahead, I got the bottom bolt on here, and we'll get this top bolt on here. And again, you're reusing the factory hardware. So it's not, don't discard it, just keep it. All right, so once you get these tightened up, by the way, this is a 14mm on both sides. You have your axle here. You're gonna take this piece here and you slide it over, just like so. The next thing you do is you gotta make sure you take this bolt out of your portal box. Your drain plug is out there and there. And another thing to look at is if you look, see it says 30 right there. They want you to make sure the case also says 30, that the numbers match. I don't know if they're all gonna say 30 or not. And not to use an impact gun on any of these, and do not over tighten them. Now these are the 3rd gen portals, which means that they're the newest and the greatest. They have better seals, bigger shafts, better gears, whatever. And mind you, this is the cast. This is not the billet. It looks really nice. So I'm gonna install this right down here in the bottom, one hand, and then I'm gonna torque this down to 10 foot-pounds. All these other bolts are gonna be 60 foot-pounds. As you can see, I have my torque wrenches out. So let's get that done. And for those of you wondering why I'm using such a long extension, and the reason is for this one here, because when I come in back here, I can't get a short hex head in there. It is an 8mm. So next thing you do is you're going to take this, and it comes with 4 bolts plus the one you took out, and you got your brake caliper. So what I like to do, put the brake caliper in. Now don't tighten this up. I'll show you why here in a few minutes. Just get it on there finger tight or snug, and as you can see, that will fit in just like this. This one, there's a part number on the other side, and then the other bolts will go right here, 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 and here. So we'll do that. Now this is a little tricky because when you're doing it, you need to feed the axle and line the splines up. So I'll pull these back. We will attach the supplied hardware. You can't go all the way through, unfortunately. So now I've got this mounted. I still have this one and this one. They're not tight. These 3 are snug down. And the reason these 2 aren't tight is once you get everything assembled, you may have to pull it back apart to put shims behind here. So the next step is you take this. You do not reuse the castle nut or the cotter pin, and you put some Loctite. The kit comes with Loctite, so you can put it in here and snug it down. So if you ever have to change a broken axle, this is the nut you take off, which is the same as everything else. It's a 1 3/16, to where this nut here is a 41mm, and they actually give you the socket for this. So we get this snug down. All right, so once you get this snug down, you're gonna take this. It's gonna fit over here. You have a paper gasket that comes with. Comes with 3 5mm hex heads. That just get them started. Then you torque these. Well, it doesn't say to torque them down, but I just torque them down to 10 foot-pounds, just like the drain plug. Slide this on. And again, I'm going to just hand tighten this so that it sits all the way back. Okay, I went ahead and I bolted this on. Mind you, everything is snug, it's not tight. But if you look in there, do you see the daylight on this side that's basically touching there? That is not acceptable. That means this outside pad's just gonna wear. So what they do is they give you these shims. Now I said the other side needed 3, so that's where I'm gonna start. So the process is I gotta remove the 2 bolts here, slide this off, take those other 2 bolts down there, and that's why I said don't tighten it. All right, I think I settled on 2 shims, so I don't know if you guys can see. I'm not looking at the brake pad down there. I am looking at the distance between the ends of the caliper to the rotor. It looks about the same. So this one was 2, that side was 3. Once you get this set up, you probably never have to do it again. So now I gotta pull it off one more time, double check all the torque on the bolts, and then I will reassemble it and I will put the new brake line on, and I'll show you that. So once you get everything tightened up, torqued up, next thing to do is the brake. For those of you wondering, this is 300 foot-pounds. But again, if you're braking axles, you gotta take it off to get back to here. So make sure you put the big 41mm socket right here that they send you with the kit. Put it in your toolkit. The nice thing with the portals is you're gonna keep the same factory axle geometry. It's going in up here, dropping down here. So you're dropping it 4 inches. So for the brakes, it comes with new brake lines because these ones are not obviously long enough. So it is a 10mm that you're gonna undo this. Then you got this clip right here that you're gonna pull out with a pair of pliers. The end of that looks like this. So you see how it's got that flat side to keep it from twisting. The reason you switch it is they want the bleeder, which is right here, facing up. So now when you bleed it, it'll be at the top. That's why I have to go side to side. You gotta take the brake lines off anyways, and then they give you a nicer brake line to begin with. And then on the other side, I did remove this piece here, and I put it on the new brake line and bolted it there. So go ahead and get that off. It's not hard, it's just real messy. Wear gloves. Brake fluid's pretty nasty. So when changing the brake, it's right here. It's a 10 millimeter. You can see that this will pull out the hard brake line. Try not to bend them too much. Take your pliers. And as you can see, it's just a clip that goes in just like that. And then the old one comes out. Your new one only fits in one way because it's that flat spot, remember. And then there's that collar up there, and you push the clip in. Then you tighten it back up. Then you go ahead and you route this to come right around here. On that, you got your banjo nut with the washer inside and out, and you're going to reuse the factory one and put it on there. And then I will put this here. So once I got everything tightened down, put back together, the next step we're going to do is we're going to fill it with the portal blood. Remember, one of these bottles does all 4 portals. It doesn't matter if it's a 4, 6, or 8 inch. It only puts a little bit of fluid in there and it splashes around. This stuff, like it says, lasts 4 times longer. It is a very sticky type fluid. So filling this up is just like filling up a differential. So you go up to the hole. And they're full, and we'll torque this down. So last thing I have to do after I clean off that fluid is to bleed the brakes. I'm gonna have to go inside, get someone to help me with that. Pretty simple process. I'm not gonna show it on camera. But as you can see, I got this piece on here that the brakes will, the lines will move through it, which I like. It just keeps it away from here. Well, there you have it, part 1 of a 4-inch portal lift installed in the Honda Pioneer. I've been at it for about 5 hours. That includes my setup and cleanup and filming. To be honest with you, I probably could have done it in about 4 hours if I had to redo it. Filming does add some extra time. It's not always easy to get good angles, but there you go. You know, honestly, it doesn't look like it sticks out that far. I used to run a 1-inch wheel spacer back here, and everything portal-wise is protected in the hub. I am running a 5.2, so it's got 2 inches out, 5 inches back spacing on a 7-inch wide rim, as you can see. I just need to bleed those brakes. So I did measure, my stock measurement was 16 3/8 from here with the Viking shocks. I am just shy of 21 inches right now, but it hasn't settled. As you can see, my limit straps back here are very taut. They will settle here shortly. But let me know in the comments below what you think. Do you hate them? Do you love them? Portal lifts, you know what? It's what I've always wanted. If you go all the way back to my first videos, it's what I talked about. And it's not an internal gear reduction. The great thing with the portal lift is I can put everything back to stock 100% over a weekend. I might have all the parts labeled, and I mean, I even have the stock A-arms if I needed to go that route with the stock shocks. So don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Don't forget to check out the next video. Until next time.